Hello and welcome to the channel. In this video, today we're going to be creating our first little Java application, and we'll use all the things that we've been kind of talking about briefly throughout the videos. If you're just new to the channel and coming here, off this video, there's some building blocks that you may need to know. You may already know them, and you're just looking to, look how to build a program or the flow of a program. But there's other videos to kind of outline the basic building blocks that if you've been following along, then great, you'll kind of have an understanding. If not, then that's fine too. What we'll do is we'll just create a little converter, a temperature converter, and it'll just be to convert, a given temperature that the user gives us from Fahrenheit to Celsius, and then we'll just get the user to give us another input, and we'll, from Celsius, and then we'll convert that number to Fahrenheit. So it's fairly straightforward. It's just going to be a very simple application right now, but we're going to try to build upon it later as we learn more about it. So we'll start this off. We'll just go to File, New Project, and in here we'll make sure Java is selected, and we'll go over to the Java application form in the project. We'll click Next. In here we'll have to give our application a name, and we'll just call it temperature underscore converter. And if you want to put this into a flash drive or a different file on your computer, you can browse it. We're just going to leave it in the documents for now. If you do want to, you can just click browse. A little dialog box pops up, and you can put it into any other drive or a flash drive, whatever you wish. Not the case today. We'll just go next and leave everything the way it is as is now, and we'll just hit finish. Now we have our temperature converter application created and ready to go. Now I've already went ahead and made a little template file that kind of every time I produce or create a new, it will give me this file. You're going to get something different if you haven't actually done this. We'll go ahead and do a different video for that. Just for now, what we can do is we can move up here. You're going to have a bunch of little comments, up here. You'll have some probably comments in here. You'll have some to-do comments here. You can just delete the comments. They don't actually get shown by the program. They're only for yourself to refer to. It's fairly simple to do. To make a comment block like this one here, you just go with the backslash and an asterisk. To close that block off, you just go an asterisk backslash, and this now is a comment block. It's a multi-line commenting, so you can just make a line like this, and anything in here, let's type that out real quick, is ing ignored. Oh, we spelled it wrong, but oh well, it's ignored. You get what I'm trying to say. Ignored by compiler. So you can kind of give yourself a little bit of a breakdown of what's going on. And we'll just type up here, give yourself the author. It's your name there. We'll give it a title. We'll just say temperature. Temperature converter. Perfect. We'll give it a date. I'll say today. You can give it the date that you made it on. The description. Now, generally, the description of your application is going to be, you talk to a client or somebody that wanted an application made, or you have an idea what the application you're looking to create is. Or maybe if you're in school, you might have like a little assignment that was given to you. You could just type that into this description here, and you can always refer back to it later on. So the description that I gave was we're going to we'll create an application that gets the temperature from the user. And the very first part will say we'll get the temperature from the user in Fahrenheit. And then converts the temperature to Celsius. Right? Oh, I'm spelling that wrong too. Into Celsius. Then gets a temperature from the user Celsius. And converts to Fahrenheit. Right, so we'll do it in 2 steps. We'll just ask the user for the Fahrenheit first, and we'll give them the produce a temperature converted to Celsius, and then we'll ask the user again for a value in Celsius, and then we'll convert it to Fahrenheit. And understanding the flow or understanding the logic of your program really helps to building it. Because I mean, we can do it in 2 different ways. We can get, both temperatures from the user. We can get 1 temperature of Fahrenheit, then we can ask the user for a temperature in Celsius, and then we can do the conversions. But we're going to do it in this 2-step process for this application. We will tweak it and we'll make it usable, because normally you're not gonna ask a user, if the person just wants to go from Celsius to Fahrenheit, you're not gonna go through so many steps. It's obvious, but for now this is just to outline the different things we've learned and kind of get you building a little application. So now the formulas that we're going to use, we'll just put them up here. And we'll say this one here is for Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit is equal to Celsius times 1.8 plus 32. It's always going to be for that. And we'll say here the other formula now is Celsius is equal to, I'm going to put this in brackets, and we're going to say it's equal to Fahrenheit minus 32, and then we'll divide it by 1.8. And you might see this differently. It might be like 5 over 9, but if you do that math first on 5 over 9, you're going to get it resolved to 1.8. So we just kind of broke it down into a simpler form already. So you can do that if you have little pieces of the formula. You can resolve them to what they need to be so that they're not so weird looking, or you can kind of do the pre-math before getting into that. But for now, this is just how we're going to make this work, and we'll move on. Now from this point, we have our formulas that we have based on. We have the application and the description of what it should be. We might have some requirements here. Needs user input. Let's go down here. Needs to be precise or accurate, we could say. Accurate. We'll just give ourselves some test data. So we'll go with test data. And we know a couple constants here. We know things that water boiling. We know boils at 100 degrees Celsius, and that equivalent is basically 212 degrees Fahrenheit. We know that water freezing, so water freeze temperature is generally at 0 degrees Celsius, and we know that that is actually equal to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So these are little things that are constant that we know, from out doing science and doing math. It's just a constant value that we're actually aware of. So we can kind of take test data and work from that, and when we do our conversions, then we can actually plug them in and see if we're getting the proper values at the end. So now if we look up here, we know that we got to get user inputs, and we know we want to convert them. So let's start our program. We'll come down here. I'm just gonna kind of expand this a little bit so that hopefully you can see what's going on. Now, first thing we need to do is get our user inputs, and that was, again, we've talked about that with that scanner class. And every time we want to bring in another file, or we want to use another file inside of our Java project, we have to import it into our project. So we'll type here import, and we'll go with java.util.scanner. Now we've just imported a built-in or already built library from Java. It's a utility, and we'll bring in the scanner object or the scanner class so we can start to use it. We'll come down here and we'll declare this, or we'll create it, and we'll get it ready so that we can actually start taking user inputs from it. We'll say scanner is equal to, we'll make a name for it, temp input, and we'll make that equal to a new scanner. This is typically what you're doing every single time you're going to create a scanner. And if you've seen that throughout the videos, I'm going to try to use this more and more so that you can see that it's constantly used exactly the same way. This is how you set one up. You declare it, you give it a name, and this now is the name to refer to our scanner. So now we know a couple more things up here. We know we need a Fahrenheit, we know we need a Celsius. So we can come here and we can comment this over. We can create our variables. Now we're going to work with doubles. We'll just comment that as variables. We know we're going to work with doubles, and we'll call this one Fahrenheit. Just grab it from up here. We'll drag that down here. There we go. Just make that equal to 0 for now. And we can copy this. We can paste it in here. You don't have to. You can type it. It doesn't matter. Just to me, it seems pretty much easier to copy and paste. The workflow goes a little quicker to me, but I mean, it's fine if you're a strong typer and you like typing, then do it that way. If we go back up here, we know there's a couple constant values that are, shown in both. So we got this 32 and we got this 1.8. So we're just going to make values for those as well. Now 1.8 is a decimal or a floating point value, so we have to use a double. And we'll just call this, 1.8. We'll just call it exactly what it is, 1.8. And now the 32, if you notice, it's not actually a floating point. It doesn't have to actually be a decimal. It's just 32. So when we talked about our variables and our data types that we can use, we can actually put this into a byte. And we can call this, 32 equals 32. Now technically you don't actually have to do it this way. You can just, once you get these numbers, we can write them as constants down here, write them as like a literal value inside of our formula, and that'll work just fine. I'll show you kind of a reason why we do this, and just for later on programs and stuff, it's kind of good to do it in this form here, but we'll work through this. So very first thing we need to do, we got our scanner all set up, and we'll just comment that, call it the setup. That's what it is. We'll come down here and we'll just do a system.out.print method, and we'll put in here enter temperature in Fahrenheit. Alright, so we're going to get a Fahrenheit temperature, and now we're going to store that value in our Fahrenheit variable. Type that there now, and then we'll grab that input. So we use our temp underscore input dot next double, and that now is going to take the double, the next input the user gives us, and we'll store it inside of here. And now we can do our conversion because we now have a value that has been given to us. So if we look up here, we're going to be converting to Celsius. Because we already have Fahrenheit, we can't really get Fahrenheit. We don't have Celsius to do that, right? So basic math, we'll just come down here. We'll just comment this so that it's kind of over top. We got our formula, and we can build our formula based upon this right here. So we know we need Celsius. So click that, we'll just copy, Control C, Control V it down there. Again, you can type it, it's not a big deal. And we know this is exactly what we need to do. We'll take our Fahrenheit, which is this value here. Just Control C, bring it down here, we'll copy and paste it into here. And now it goes minus 32. And we'll take our value 32. And then we have to divide it by 1.8. It's our 1.8. And that'd be fine. Now we're going to be actually converting our Fahrenheit directly into Celsius. That was our formula right there. So now we can actually go and system.out.print line, and we'll just say, we'll put the number here. I'll just type it Fahrenheit. Make a little note to say, you know, degrees. Fahrenheit is equal to, we'll add Celsius. Oh, put that. Okay, so now we got the very first step out of the way. We'll run this program and let's just see what happens. We have some test data up here that we can work with already. We'll look down here. Now enter temperature in Fahrenheit. So if we go right here, we can say 212 Fahrenheit should come out with a 100 degrees Celsius. Let's type in 212. 212 degrees Fahrenheit is equal to 100 degrees Celsius. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we were looking to get. And the program ends now because we don't have any kind of way of, you know, redoing it quite yet. We'll learn things to actually keep the program flowing, but for now it's kind of bare bones and very minimal. So let's move on. The next thing we wanted to do, we said we wanted to get the system output into Celsius. So we're going to ask the user now to type now enter a value in Celsius. Okay, we got that. Now we need to store it somewhere. So we'll store it inside of our Celsius value. We'll say temp underscore input dot next double. Right, and now we can actually again start doing our next conversion because now we have the next value. So come up here, we know we're going to try to convert to Fahrenheit. I'll bring that down to here. We'll just comment it on this line. We'll put it in there so we know what we're actually working with, and we'll do our conversions. So now we can store that into our Fahrenheit. We'll make that equal to Celsius times our 1.8, and then we know we need to add 32. And that's perfect. Now we have exactly what we want. We have this. We can take this right here instead of having to type all that out again, which, I mean, it's not really that big of a deal, but take this, Control C that, or even Control X, put that in here, Control V, take this, move it over to here, and I'll take this one out, Control X, move this one over to here, go inside there, done. So a little bit of reorganizing of the line, and now you have exactly what you're looking for. Now they gave us a temperature in Celsius, so Celsius here, degrees Celsius is equal to your degrees in Fahrenheit. Fairly straightforward, easy enough. All the program that we asked it to do is ready to go here, and we can run it just to give ourselves a quick check, make sure everything was working properly. And here we go. So we got a temperature here now. Okay, if we already did this one and it came out right, so let's see if this one, type 32, hit enter. 32 degrees Fahrenheit is equal to 0 degrees Celsius. Perfect. Now if we go with 100 degrees Celsius, it should equal 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So our test data is kind of working out perfectly. We got our conversion from Fahrenheit and our conversion to Celsius. Now I know the program's not really too functional, kind of weird. You're not going to really ask somebody to give you a Fahrenheit when all they really want to do is go and get the Celsius. You know, it's kind of a weird conversion program. But for now, just with what we've talked about, the topics that we've only kind of touched base on at this point, we're just kind of building up a program as we go. So the main focus here, we got a little application, and we're going to continue to build upon this as we learn new concepts all the way through. We'll make a couple different, don't have to just worry about temperature conversions and stuff, but we'll make different ones as we go. But I thought this would be a decent little project start, and we can definitely work with it and change it up as we learn new topics. So that's pretty much it for this video. I guess in a very quickly we'll just go through this. I'll kind of walk you down the logic of a program real fast. So if you don't know technically how the program is running at this point, when we get into a Java program, it always starts at this main method. So we come into this main method, we come down here and we go and we create some variables. We create these double, we name it Fahrenheit. We create a storage location for a type of value that we're going to store, and it's going to be a double, which is a decimal point. We do that with another one. We get three of those set up, one Celsius, one Fahrenheit, and one that we actually gave it a static value. Like the reason we did this here and we gave it the static value is that later on, say if this was wrong and this number wasn't technically right, and you had it in like 30 lines of code or 100 lines of code, and you had all these 32 was just written down here, and 32 is just written down here. Now when you go later on and you go to change those values, you're gonna have to go and look for every single instance of that line all the way down into your code to write down and change that value. It was wrong, it wasn't right up here. It was, you had to actually, but if we just kind of have it in a centralized location like this, when we change it, we only have to change it one time. It's right here. So now once we change this, if we were to put 16 in here, now it actually changes that value all the way throughout your code. So it's a little bit easier just to kind of centralize it up here and have all your values that are existing up in the top, rather than going through thousands of lines of code. I mean, this is a very minimal project that's not too big, but some projects get huge, and to have these values all just sitting, you can write them like that in a little project like this, but in a really big project, it's going to get really hard to change and to quickly, fix problems if you're not preparing ahead of time. So that's why we kind of just, initialize them and put them up here. It's easier to maintain your code later. So now we come down and we set up a scanner input to get all of our inputs from our user, and we did that by importing in a Java file that's pre-existing to us. And then we created an instance of that scanner in order to use in our program. And the program moves down, we just print out a line to the user to say enter temperature in Fahrenheit, and we gather that information from the user here, and we store it inside of that variable that we set up earlier. Then it comes down and it does its math. It takes that Fahrenheit that the user gave to us, it subtracts 32 from it and divides 1.8 from it, and then stores it into this value Celsius. Now it comes down here and it prints out that value and what we put. We said Fahrenheit, the user gave us Fahrenheit degrees. We'll just fix that. Degrees Fahrenheit is equal to Celsius, the newly created converted Celsius, degrees Celsius, and we just print that to screen so the user knows what the conversion was. Once that's done, the program then comes down here and asks the user to enter a temperature in Celsius, then waits to get that user's input, stores it inside this variable that we created up here earlier in the value Celsius, and comes down here and uses that value in creating the next converted temperature into Fahrenheit. Takes that input from the user, multiplies it by 1.8, and then adds 32, stores it in the Fahrenheit value. Now this Fahrenheit value is reused from up here, and you might think, okay, well up here it was, the user put in 100, so why isn't it 100 down here? Well, because we overwrote that variable now. So it's very important to know when you're overwriting it, the value is no longer 100, it is now whatever was, you know, overwritten by this equation right here when we reuse that variable. So they can be reused and they don't always have to be the same. And then when we come down here, we just print out that last conversion that we created. And we'll just run this one more time just to show you the flow of the program, and you probably already have an idea of what's happening here. And here we go, we enter temperature in Fahrenheit. Again, we have test data up here to use. So we'll say 112 degrees Fahrenheit is equal to 100 degrees Celsius. The computer now asks for the next conversion to Celsius. We'll say 0. We'll hit enter. 0 degrees Celsius is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's in line with the test data that we were given in order to know that we're getting accurate answers. So that's pretty much it for now. We will build upon this program later. Do appreciate you watching and following along. If you like the video, just give it a thumbs up. If you like to see more content like this, just be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you have any comments or questions about the video, or you have any ideas for future videos or topics you'd like to see covered, then just leave it in the comment section below, and we'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.